Hey, how's it going, Adam? How are you?
Hey, Graham, I'm good. How are you?
Doing good, dude. Obviously, coming up on Wednesday night, we got the NXT Championship match. You yourself against Finn Balor, going to be a great match. We've seen the match twice before in NXT. Once before in December of 2019, a match that you won last year on the Super Tuesday episode that Finn Balor won. What's going to make this match different on Wednesday night now that you guys are one win apiece?
Well, I think there's a lot of different factors. Partially, and in many people's eyes, the biggest reason is to a lot of people, this is the rubber match. I beat Finn Balor one time defending my NXT championship. The next time we faced off each other, he beat me. And now a lot has changed. But one thing hasn't changed, and that is, I saw some advertisement for this particular match, and they're calling it Megastar versus Megastar.
Mm-hmm.
And to many people, there's no argument that the two greatest NXT champions in the history of NXT are Adam Cole and Finn Balor. So this is huge. But obviously there's a lot of different factors going on as well. Like I've been making a lot of noise on NXT lately, trying to do everything that I can to show the world that I will do whatever it takes to become the NXT champion, whether that, hurts people's feelings or not. And in my eyes, I'm more focused and more driven than ever to regain the NXT championship. It's cool and all that I have the record for the longest single reign as NXT champion. That's awesome. But I want that record to continue to be broken. I want to be one of the only two-time NXT champions. And if I have to, one of the only three-time NXT champions.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, in turn, this means that you're going to get a really competitive, a really exciting NXT match that NXT championship matches are known for. But the outcome is going to be quite simple, and that's Adam Cole walking out as NXT champion.
And like you said, you're the longest reigning NXT champion of all time. You've won it once before. You've been to the mountaintop before. Having done that, does it add more pressure to this matchup knowing, okay, not only have I been NXT champion before, but like you said, arguably the greatest of all time and having held it the longest, does this add pressure to like, okay, I have to top myself after already having held it for over a year, about a year ago?
I would say yes and no. Of course, there's a part of me. I'd say that in many ways, I am my own worst critic. And in many ways, I want the best for myself, and I'm constantly trying to outdo myself. However, one of the scariest things about not just pro wrestling, but really anything is the unknown. And when I first became NXT champion, that was such an unknown thing to me. Main eventing show after show and wrestling, again, the A-list of pro wrestlers all across the globe. And just defending that title constantly, defending it hurt, defending it multiple nights in a row. So I understand the pressure that comes with holding that championship. And having been there for as long as I was there, that fear of the unknown is gone. Now it's all confidence. It's going hard on all cylinders, and it's more confident than ever to regain the NXT title. So I'm feeling more confident than I ever have.
There's obviously so many questions over the last couple of years with anything when it comes to Mount Rushmore of this or that. When you look at the Mount Rushmore of NXT champions, obviously you're on there. Is there anyone else that you would have join you on that Mount Rushmore of greatest NXT champions of all time?
Ooh, I have said this before, and part of the reason that the NXT championship is so incredibly special is just the A-list of people who have held the championship. For me personally, again, I do think you can look at a guy like Finn Balor and say he belongs on there. I do think you could say that a guy like Kevin Owens belongs on there. But you could make the same argument for Sami Zayn, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, Andrade, the current Universal Champion Drew McIntyre. Like, to really narrow it down to like an ultimate Mount Rushmore, I do think would be pretty difficult. But I do agree with your sentiment of, yeah, Adam Cole's certainly on there. Maybe my face is the biggest as well.
I think that can definitely be disputed. No pun intended. Well, speaking of which, now that you're going into this match on Wednesday, no ties to Undisputed Era. You're all on your own at this point. Any chance we see you debut a new entrance theme, or is that yet to be determined?
I don't know. Because the one thing I did say, I tweeted this out before, and I know it's just Twitter, but this is truly how I feel. I've said before that, Adam Cole is and always will be the Undisputed Era. In my mind, there is no Undisputed Era without Adam Cole. So I think a lot of people are unsure. Like, does this mean that the Undisputed Era is dead? And in my opinion, the Undisputed Era is dead when Adam Cole says it's dead. So maybe I have some issues with some guys who were in that group before, guys who fought beside me. But to me, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's over. To me, Undisputed Era is my baby. It always has been. And when I want it to be dead and buried, it'll be dead and buried.
And if that means we get to keep this song going for a little while longer, I think more people can jump on board with that, which would be great. If only we can get the rights to Something for You by David Rolfe, the old Ring of Honor song, that would be great, you know?
Also a classic theme song.
Definitely is. You kind of just mentioned it right there about Undisputed Era, how you are Undisputed Era. You've said it on NXT. You've tweeted it before. Was this the right time for it? Have you felt this way for a while? Do you felt like it was overdue? Or was this the right time on Valentine's Day, at Vengeance Day last month? It was the perfect time for it, in your opinion?
Yeah, to me, it was kind of ironic that it happened to be on Valentine's Day. It by no means was something that I'm thinking, yeah, this would be the perfect time to do it. But it comes down to, and if you don't mind, I'll do a little bit of an explanation on this. But I was running into an issue where, again, I think everybody knows I was the leader of that group. Kyle O'Reilly was challenging for the NXT Championship, multiple times. He failed multiple times. And I was already frustrated with Kyle. But then he took it to another level when he decided that when he couldn't win the NXT Championship, his solution was to attempt to invite Finn Balor into the Undisputed Era. Like the proper sidekick that Kyle O'Reilly is. He decides it's a good idea. He can't win the big one, so let's have the guy with the big one fight beside me. And that's not how that works. That's never how it worked. Undisputed Era was always designed for me, Adam Cole, to win the NXT Championship, and it accomplished that. And when I felt like we were kind of falling off that track and not going in the right direction, I absolutely felt like it was the right time. Roderick Strong was having issues, but before winning the NXT Championship, the Golden Prophecy, in a lot of ways, this is just the truth. It was designed for multiple reasons, but one of them was, I know with Roddy, Bobby, and Kyle holding championships, they would feel more so like they're truly a part of something really, really special. When at the end of the day, all I'm thinking about is winning the NXT Championship. So I knew that I had a ton of goals, ton of aspirations of things that I wanted to do for myself. So even early on with some early dissension, some early tension, I knew I was going to be able to bring the guys back. I knew I was going to be able to accomplish what I needed to accomplish. And then the months leading up to when I decided to, kind of teach Kyle a lesson, I definitely had that thought. And in many ways, I had given him multiple chances to kind of redeem himself and prove that he could get back on track. And then, again, that day at Vengeance Day, when he just insisted on standing alongside Finn Balor, the guy that holds my property, I was like, okay, this is it. I can't wait any longer.
And you mentioned how you used those guys to get you to the NXT Championship, and after you lost it, you guys kind of fell off track, as you mentioned. Was there ever the thought of doing that same thing beyond the NXT Championship, using Undisputed Era as a vehicle to get you to the Intercontinental Championship, the WWE Universal titles, whatever? Or again, was the negatives at that point kind of outweighing the positives?
Oh, sure. So, in a perfect world, I wish so badly that Kyle, Roddy, and Bobby, truth be told, I don't even really know where he stands. But as far as those two, of course, in a perfect world, I wish badly that they could have fought by my side for the rest of my career. I loved my time with Kyle and Roddy and Bobby, and I loved the fact that we were this well-oiled machine, and it was designed to make me the most dominant force in NXT at the time. And if that meant that it led to me going to Raw or going to SmackDown and accomplishing some other things too, that would also be awesome. I have said before that NXT has a really, really special place in my heart. And truth be told, I do feel like I have a lot left to accomplish here, as crazy as that sounds, but I really, really do. I love being a part of this crew, and I love being a part of this group. But absolutely, in a perfect world, of course, if I could get them to understand where I'm coming from and then more importantly, do what they're supposed to do, I would have had Kyle, Roddy, and Bobby fight by my side forever.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned how there's so much more you want to accomplish in NXT. Is there anything specific on that bucket list or list of accomplishments or goals that you want to achieve in NXT, or is it just kind of a, win the NXT Championship back type of thing?
Yeah, well, it kind of is it's a two-parter here. And the first part is, of course, what you had just mentioned, and that is regaining the NXT Championship. I think, too, because I'm still kind of frustrated that I'm at a point now where there still seems to be this debate amongst some people of who the greatest NXT champion is. Becoming a two-time NXT champion and holding that title for as long as possible, I want it to be so painfully obvious that you can't argue with anybody that I, Adam Cole, am the greatest NXT champion of all time. And then aside from that, one of the coolest things when I first came into NXT was kind of seeing the growth of the brand, from it going to being on the network to then being live on the USA Network on Wednesdays, and just seeing NXT continue to grow and develop. I felt like I was a part of that process. So that's really cool. So the broad scheme of everything would be just getting to be a part of NXT further and further as it grows and becomes a bigger and bigger brand in WWE.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, too, because in addition to the championship match tomorrow night, it's going to be a big episode of NXT between the main event between you and Balor, as well as the women's championship match. And now we know, coming off of Raw on Monday, that we're going to get not one but two huge landscape-changing announcements from William Regal regarding NXT. And there's been speculation as to what that could be, one of which being maybe a potential move to Tuesdays, which you guys have done Tuesdays before, the Super Tuesday episodes. Does it make a difference to you? I mean, obviously on Wednesdays you guys have the competition. It's been back and forth over the last year and a half. To you, do you think that's a good move? What are your thoughts on a potential move to Tuesdays for NXT?
Yeah, so for me personally, and truth be told, I know I've heard rumors about that, but I've actually, honest to God, heard nothing about it. But at the end of the day, and this is the truth, whether it's on Monday nights for Adam Cole or Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, we can go through every single day of the week. To me, it makes zero difference. As long as I'm getting to do what I love to do and perform and just show the world what I'm all about, that's all that matters to me.
And over the last 4 years in NXT, you've been pretty consistent in terms of being the bad guy of NXT. We saw the audience embrace you for a little bit late last year during your run-ins with Pat McAfee and company. Now back to the Adam Cole of old, which is great to see. Do you feel more in your element in what you're doing right now, flying solo, going against the audience? Because people seem to love you on Up, Up, Down, Down. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well. But are you in more of your element right now, doing what you're doing compared to what you guys were doing late last year as kind of fan favorites of sorts?
I think so. So it's funny because it's creatively a different experience. Like to me, and I have said this before, when you are under the position of being someone that the audience is really behind and really likes, it's just such a different mindset than me being, what many people have called like the Adam Cole of old or the true Adam Cole. It's just my approach to pro wrestling is different. My approach to my interviews are different. Approach to my matches are different. And I do think, generally speaking, if you look at my 13-year career, I think I am the most in my element in the role that I'm in now, and the most comfortable in where I am now. I do like the challenge, and I do like the different aspect of getting to show different sides of my character and almost have like a different persona in many ways. But again, like to me, I'm at my most valuable when I'm doing what I do right now.
And you have so many supporters on the NXT brand, both in the audience and behind the scenes. It seems like everyone does not have a cross word to say about Adam Cole, and rightfully so. One of which has gone on the record, that being Road Dogg, saying that you could be Universal Champion, you should be Universal Champion at some point. You've already been the NXT Champion. He's one of your biggest fans behind the scenes, it seems. He mentioned as well, I think it was on Corey Graves' After the Bell podcast, saying that, he would be Universal Champion right now if he was carrying Cross's size. At this point, having had champions that are Daniel Bryan, CM Punk, we had Kofi Kingston as champion 2 years ago, people of all shapes, sizes, and colors and whatnot, does it really matter at this point? I mean, obviously it's a compliment because he said you should be Universal Champion. It's not a knock by any means. Huge compliment. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
At this point, does the size argument matter to you? Like in terms of like, okay, I've seen these other people reach those heights, so that means I can as well.
Sure. Yeah. So the size argument to me, especially just because I've been doing it so long, it no longer matters to me. Because truth be told, like from the moment I started training and wrestling on the independents, people had made comments about me being on the smaller side. So it's something I've just battled with and dealt with literally my entire career. And the awesome thing has been, and it's just based on past experience, but pretty much every single company that I've gone into, I've excelled and been able to be their champion and hold that championship for a really long time. And the fans have taken to me in different places and things like that. So from that sense, as far as internally how I feel about it, no, it doesn't affect me at all. And then also, like you had mentioned, again, guys who aren't 6'5" and 265 pounds being able to be world champion and performing at such a high level. Seeing them do that, of course, gives me even more motivation and more focus on being able to go, yeah, I could absolutely be in their spot. And truth be told, I feel like I am in that spot. You know, NXT being the third brand of WWE, and being able to be the longest reigning NXT champion of all time, being in this huge matchup tomorrow night for the NXT Championship against Finn Balor. It's cool, you know, and being able to show that, again, size-wise, right now more than ever, especially with someone like me, I need to make sure I'm as good as possible in the ring, as good as possible on interviews, and just focus on the art of it as much as I can. And fortunately, fans in 2021 seem to have a good appreciation for that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even when you talk about like the world titles and people that have held them and stuff like that, NXT Championship is a world championship technically. I mean, when the Royal Rumble winner can challenge Finn Balor for the title at WrestleMania, at that point it's a world championship. So that is worth throwing out there as well. Final few questions for you, Adam. You mentioned, you know, NXT wanting to grow the brand. And you're a guy that could really thrive anywhere. You've been in Japan, you've been here in the U.S. in NXT for a while. You can do well really anywhere you go, in my opinion. With that being said, in NXT, you see guys like Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa go on the record and say, I never want to leave NXT. Just due to the bond they have in NXT and how great of a show it is, you're probably more open to the idea, if the possibility came, of going to a Raw or a SmackDown. Or at this point, being in NXT for 4 years, is it, okay, I'm good staying here for as long as my career goes for?
Yeah, so I'm an interesting case. Like here's the interesting thing from my standpoint. So again, if I were to tell you that I don't want to have a WrestleMania moment someday, I would be lying to your face. I would just be absolutely lying. So of course I want that chance someday. And the idea of going over and wrestling a bunch of new people at Raw and a bunch of new people at SmackDown is very exciting. However, like deep to my core, I by no means, again, am in any rush or in any sort of way like, man, I got to get to Raw, or, oh, God, I got to get to SmackDown. I love my time in NXT. And if that means that I'm here for years to come, I'm very, very happy about that. I love the brand. I believe in the brand. I want to be here when the brand grows even more and becomes something even bigger than it already is. It's something that's been, like you said, a part of me for 4 years now, and it's something that I'm really proud of. So, again, I'm that special case of like, of course I'm open to the idea of going to Raw or SmackDown, but I do not want to leave NXT, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the best of both worlds, which is cool.
Yeah.
That being said, Adam, final question for you, kind of a three-parter. An opponent that you want to face from NXT right now that you haven't had the chance to square off with, someone that you want to face in NXT, someone from Raw or SmackDown, again, that you haven't had the chance to square off with, because you've actually had matches already with Rollins and Bryan, two of the top stars on the main roster right now, and you've already had the chance to face them. So a match from, a match that you would want to have on Raw or SmackDown, and also an opponent from outside of WWE that you think could join in at some point that you would love to face off with. And I know Shawn Michaels would be at the top of the list because he's technically in NXT. I know you want that match, but aside from the Heartbreak Kid, can you name any of those opponents from NXT main roster and outside of WWE that you would want to face at some point?
Sure. So NXT wise, I think I'd really like to face off with Shane Strickland. Isaiah Scott is his name on NXT. I've known him for a really, really long time. I was involved in some of his early training, which I didn't train him. I just helped him kind of go to the school that he wanted to go to. He was one of the only people. He's actually the only other person I know from the area that I was born and raised, who actually ended up not only becoming a pro wrestler, but ending up in WWE, which is really cool. So Isaiah Scott would be my pick. As far as Raw goes, I know I hate to say this because I have faced him, but I just feel like so much has changed from when we first faced off for both of us, and that person is Drew McIntyre. When I first came into NXT, I attacked Drew, and we ended up having one match, which again wasn't on NXT television or wasn't on a takeover or anything like that. And I feel like we just scratched the surface. That was the only time I've ever stepped into the ring with him before. And now seeing all he's accomplished, all that I've accomplished, people still fantasize about that idea because, again, my debut was attacking Drew. So I think stepping in there with Drew. As far as SmackDown goes, Roman Reigns, by far. I do think he's firing on all cylinders right now. I think he has been for a while. He's incredible in a ton of ways, and I do think that, especially in front of a crowd, I think we could have a really, really special match together. Mm-hmm. And as far as someone who's not in WWE, God, let me think here. There's so many people who are who are hired now. Okay, I'm gonna say one that I'm hoping counts, because he hasn't had a match, but he technically did recently get hired. His name's Blake Christian.
Oh yes,
he was an independent guy for a while, and I've seen some of his stuff, and he's just a very, very talented young man. He's super young, super innovative. Something that NXT, a realm like that for him is perfect. But he's a guy I'd love to face off.
And as hopefully at some point we get to see it. People are getting hired all the time, so there's a very real chance we'll see that in the very near future, which would be awesome, as well as all the other matches you mentioned, as well as getting Sean as the special guest referee again for the match.
Of course, of course. Oh yeah, that will and always will be my ultimate dream match. But if it also involves Sean as the guest referee, that's just as good.
Yeah, it's a money match right there, as well as you and Balor tomorrow night on NXT Championship rubber match, as you said, on USA Network. It's going to be great. Adam, thanks so much for the time, man. Big fan. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks, Adam. You too. Have a great day.
You too.